Grow a Garden. Grow a Garden looked like the perfect relaxing game on Roblox when it first started getting attention. It had a simple but fun idea. You plant crops, you water them, you trade, and you watch your little garden grow into something rewarding. At the beginning, players liked how wholesome and peaceful it felt compared to more competitive Roblox titles. But as the game became more popular, it began leaning heavily into monetization, and that's where the downfall started. Many players complain that almost every part of the game is connected to Robux. If you want your crops to grow faster, you can pay. If you want to steal from other gardens, you can pay. If you want to get ahead at all, the easiest path is to pay. This made the game feel unfair and stressful, especially for kids who can't or don't want to spend money. On top of that, updates became less exciting over time. Instead of new, meaningful content, many events felt rushed and uninspired, with little effort put into expanding the core gameplay. Technical issues only made things worse. Large servers with too many players or too many crops caused lag, crashes, and frustration. And just like in Adopt Me, scamming became a major issue. Since Grow a Garden involves trading, children often ended up getting tricked into giving away rare items or losing things they worked hard for. Instead of being a calm, creative experience, the game now feels like a stressful, pay-to-win grind where people are constantly worried about being scammed or stolen from. Players who once loved the game say that what was supposed to be about gardening has turned into something manipulative, unfair, and exhausting. Steal a Brainrot. Steal a Brainrot is one of the clearest examples of a Roblox game that got popular so quickly it couldn't sustain itself. When it first blew up, people loved the chaos. The idea of stealing items from other players, defending your loot, and building up a little empire of Brainrots felt exciting and different. But as the player base grew, the same mechanic that made it popular also ruined it. Since the core of the game is stealing, the emotional stakes are high. When you lose a prized Brainrot, it doesn't feel like a small setback. It feels like everything you've worked for is gone. This has led to countless viral clips of kids screaming, crying, or raging after losing their items. For a lot of players, the game feels less like fun and more like constant stress, since you're always at risk of having your progress wiped away by someone else. The pay-to-win elements only made this worse. By spending Robux, you can get better abilities, items, or advantages that make it much easier to dominate others. That means players with money almost always have an edge, which destroys any sense of fairness. Over time, people also noticed how shallow the gameplay really is. Once you've stolen enough, there's not much variety. It's the same loop over and over again, which quickly becomes repetitive. Many players even criticize the look of the game, calling the graphics ugly and unpolished, like it wasn't fully finished before it went viral. The hype cycle burned hot and fast, but after the initial craze, people began to see the cracks. For many, Steal a Brainrot isn't ruined because it changed. It's ruined because the very thing that made it popular also made it frustrating, repetitive, and unfair in the long run. Meepcity. Few Roblox games have fallen as far as Meepcity. In its prime, it was the first game on Roblox to reach 1 billion visits. It was colorful, social, and gave players a chance to decorate houses, play mini-games, and roleplay in a fun and family-friendly way. It appealed to kids and teens alike, and for a while, it felt unstoppable. But its very popularity opened the door to problems that would eventually ruin it. As the player base grew, so did the number of bad actors. Meepcity became infamous for condo roleplay, where players used the game to act out inappropriate scenarios, including dating and even sexual behavior, all in a game full of children. This reputation quickly became a stain on the game, and parents began warning their kids away from it. Roblox itself had to step in and crack down on Meepcity, forcing the developers to remove features like custom avatars and bios, which were being abused by condo players. While this made the game safer, it also stripped away many of the creative and social features that fans loved. Combined with fewer updates and less developer activity, Meepcity lost its spark. What was once a vibrant, bustling social hub is now remembered as a game that was destroyed by both its toxic community and its inability to adapt to the problems that came with success. Today, many call it ruined, not just because of the features it lost, but because its reputation never recovered. Adopt Me. Adopt Me remains one of the most played Roblox games of all time, but at the same time, it's one of the most criticized. The game is centered around raising pets, trading, and building a home. But over time, the trading system turned into a hotspot for scams. Rare pets became so valuable that entire communities popped up around trading them, and with that came scammers who preyed on younger kids. Trust trades, fake promises, and straight-up tricking others became everyday occurrences. Losing a rare pet can be heartbreaking, especially for a child who spent weeks grinding to get it, and stories of kids in tears after being scammed are everywhere. Along with scams, Adopt Me also leans heavily into microtransactions. While you can grind to get good pets, it's often easier and faster to just buy Robux and skip the grind. That puts free players at a disadvantage and creates an environment where spending money almost feels required to keep up. Instead of being about fun or creativity, Adopt Me now feels to many like a giant trading marketplace where money and scams dominate. For kids, this can make the game stressful, and for parents, it's a nightmare. Even though it's still popular, many in the community believe that the endless scams, the pay-to-win nature, and the grind have ruined what was supposed to be a lighthearted game about family and pets. Forsaken had the potential to become a standout PvP and adventure experience on Roblox, but it ended up going down a path that left a lot of players disappointed. One of the most common complaints is the respawn system. Players often find themselves spawning in dangerous areas where they are killed immediately without a chance to fight back. This creates a cycle of frustration where you can't escape being trapped or spawn camped by stronger opponents. The maps themselves add to the problem, with choke points and unbalanced designs that make certain areas far too powerful to control. Instead of fair, balanced battles, the game often feels lopsided. Updates also became a sore spot. Players complain that the game isn't updated often enough, and when updates do come, they don't address the real issues that are ruining the experience. Instead of fixing spawn points or balancing the maps, updates sometimes just add small, surface-level changes. On top of this, Forsaken has been plagued by bugs and exploits. Some players use glitches to cheat, making the game even more unfair. Over time, fans who once loved the concept started to drift away, saying that the lack of balance, constant bugs, and slow developer response ruined the potential Forsaken once had. Dead Rails. Dead Rails never had the huge spotlight that games like Adopt Me or Meepcity had, but it's still remembered by players who say it could have been something special if it had been developed further. The concept, involving trains and rails in a unique setting, was interesting and gave it a distinct identity, but the execution fell short. Players ran into bugs, balancing problems, and a lack of polish that made it hard to stick with. Worse, the developers didn't seem to provide enough meaningful updates to keep the game alive. Without fresh content or fixes, the player base started to shrink, and before long, it felt like the game had been abandoned. Those who still play it say there's fun to be had, but the lack of support means it never reached its full potential. For many, Dead Rails feels ruined, not because it was changed, but because it was forgotten. Fisch. Fisch is often described as a grind-heavy game that takes the fun out of itself. At its core, it's about fishing and collecting. But instead of feeling rewarding, the gameplay loop often feels like endless repetition. Players spend hours doing the same actions. And while this might be fun at first, it quickly turns into a chore. The lack of variety makes it feel like you've seen everything within just a short time of playing. Another issue is that there aren't enough big content updates to keep things fresh, so once you hit a certain point, the only thing left to do is grind more. Like other Roblox games, Fisch also suffers from bugs and exploits, and cheaters using scripts or hacks ruin the fairness of the game. This discourages honest players from continuing, since they feel like the grind isn't worth it if others can just cheat their way ahead. Fisch isn't remembered as a terrible game, but rather one that fell into the trap of being too repetitive and not supported enough, which left players calling it ruined by boredom and neglect. Blox Fruits. Blox Fruits is still one of the biggest games on Roblox, but that hasn't protected it from criticism. At first, the concept of sailing, fighting, and finding devil fruits was exciting, but over time, players started to feel weighed down by how much grinding the game requires. Progression takes an enormous amount of time, with endless farming just to level up. Many players burn out before they reach the higher levels, saying the game feels more like work than fun. On top of the grind, the balance between fruits is a constant problem. Some fruits are incredibly powerful, giving their users huge advantages in PvP, while others feel almost worthless. This makes battles feel unfair and leaves players frustrated when they don't have access to the overpowered fruits. Hackers and exploiters are another major issue. Cheaters often invade servers, ruining the experience for everyone else, and despite updates, the problem persists. Speaking of updates, Blox Fruits is known for taking a long time to release them, and when they finally arrive, they don't always fix the core problems of grinding, fruit balance, or cheating. For fans who love the game early on, the endless grind, imbalance, and constant interference from hackers have made it feel less like a fun adventure and more like a repetitive, broken cycle.